Sangye Chodong, Soje Chonam Loy, Changjo Parto, Dane Kelswich, Dage Chuje, Gibe Sunam Chin, Dola Pinchera Sangye, Dumbare Sho, Sangye Chodong, Soje Chonam Loy, Changjo Parto, Dane Kelswich, Dage Chuje, Gibe Sunam Chin, Dola Pinchera Sangye, Dumbare Sho. Sangye Chodang Soje Chonam La Changchu Parto Dane Kyapsuich Dage Chushe Gebe Senam Chin Dola Pincher Sangye Do Pare Sho Semchen Tamche Dewa Dan Deve Gyodan Dembrach Dunga Dan Dunga Ge Jodan Dawa Juje Dungala Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindal Warich Nyere Jadan Yedan Tawe Tanyo Jembo La Nebra Churich Simje Damje Dewa Dan Deve Gyodan Dembra Churje Dungal Dan Dungek Dawa Juje Dunga Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindal Warich Jadan Yedan Tawe Tanyom Jembo La Nebra Churich Simje Damje Dewa Dan Deve Gyodan Dembra Churje Dungal Dan Dungek Jodan Joje Dunga Mebe Dewa Tamba Dan Minda Vare Churje Nyereng Chaudan Yidan Tangyam Jemba La Nebara Churje Paden Save Lama Rimboch Dage Chewa Pede Denjo Te Kaden Chembo Gone Jesont Kosong Tokje Ngodo Zato So Pasden Dorje Chanwari Kun Chabda Lama Karmapa Chenguru Kunje June Sije Paljurji Dam Dorje Nanjurma Chille Kunje Chobo Chujon Perje Chamda La Nanjur Kupar Sejindit Dalme Tukje Kyongwara Yenze Kangchir Tsenye Gyalwe Luto Pinzo De Sabe Tena Pella Chunda Yuri Longcho Nela Mimbado Dejurwa Dejurdage Tongma Nyingje Tobarji Tangbo nga she da la shen jur shen da gen di shen yu la chak se chen chen dang rang wang me pa yen do la nying je jur gang te la en de kang la sem je tang ba rin chen te che pa ti e ku la chak da kang la ne pa che chang den de lo de wen jung ne te la kya se che Good morning, everyone. The last two stanzas that I recite actually is regarding bodhicitta. Probably many of you don't know this, but there is this stanza in Madhyamika Avatara by Chandrakirti, and he praises bodhicitta actually in a very, very beautiful manner. That was the line I was singing. And the other line, the last line actually again is for praising bodhicitta, at the same time taking refuge in the bodhicitta by Shantideva. It's actually the last line in the first chapter of Bodhicitta Avatara. Anyway, just wanted to let you guys know, since we are going to discuss about the bodhicitta, so I thought it's important to think and take refuge in the bodhicitta. All right. So now today we are going to. I realized that we actually have exactly 7 days, and we have 7 things to discuss. 7 points of mind training. So we will start. Before we go into the root verses, like I mentioned yesterday, the root verses, there are many, let's say, different root verses. Some are little bit reversed, and in some there are some extras, and in some, so the numbers are not very exact. And I actually understand that, because it came all the way from Atisha and all the way to Chekawa Ishidorje, and in between there's a big gap. And then it was not something that they wrote it down, right? It was just what called whispering, actually, instruction of whispering. Like I mentioned yesterday, that Atisha gave this, very special instruction only to Ndom Tempa, to Ndom Tempa. So it was like whispering in his ear, and they never wrote it down from that. So therefore, of course, there can be, so the number of the root text and the order of the root text, there is no such in my understanding, because it was not like they wrote a book, So therefore, it's understandable that when probably you guys won't, read all of these different versions, so probably it's still okay, But still, one of the example is the example of relative and ultimate bodhicitta. In some, it's reversed. Some masters first present the ultimate bodhicitta, and in some, they say first relative bodhicitta. I don't think that order is that important, but just so that if you happen to buy a book in English or in your language, then you may think, something's missing. Actually, it's not missing. Just the orders are reversed, and in some few lines are, their stanzas or few lines may a little bit different. They are spoken, written slightly differently. And again, I think that's because, when these instructions were passed on from, master to student, then because of the language, and because of the time, so the phrase are slightly, different. Again, I'm just saying for the sake of information, because most of you don't really read Tibetan, so it is not a big deal. But as a teacher, it gives some satisfaction, to me actually, so saying that, to mention these things. Otherwise, it's not really part of the practice. But maybe it is helpful because let's say you just pick up a book or mind training, and then you will find, some extra things in that. So then you will know, okay, so this is, something that was not in the earlier book that I bought. Okay, just giving some information about these things. And before we go into the root text, yesterday in the end, I think I mentioned that Chekawa, shared this teaching with, lepers, meaning people who are sick with leprosy, I remember. And I just want to remind that, it really struck me many a times. And they were cured, and therefore this is called Dharma for the lepers. It remained in my mind for a long time, and I was, it really moved me from within that how powerful the state of the mind can be, especially the bodhicitta, how powerful that can be. It's same as like practicing of the Chinese Nyungne and all these things. You have this story of that, no? So we need to understand that the power of the awakened mind, we call it Changchu Sem, right? In Tibetan called Changchu, is not ordinary at all. And it's not something that is just limited. It's not limited at all. It is really, the most powerful mind, awakened mind, mind. So this is why there is nothing that bodhicitta cannot help us with. All we need to do is that we need to take refuge in the bodhicitta with our heart. Wholeheartedly, when you practice Dharma, and then when the Dharma is supported by your bodhicitta, then that's it. I mean, that's it in the sense like that is the most profound way of practicing the Dharma. Even if you just say Om Mani Padme Hum, but if that sound of Om Mani Padme Hum or Karmapa Cheno of that, if that is supported by that bodhicitta, that mind, that renunciation, then that is really what makes that chanting so very special, so very insightful, and so very powerful. It's power of not the sound, but the power of the mind, so to speak. So in every practice, these are very important. All right, so since some of you may have book, I just need to look into the Tibetan version of this. Right, so now what are the 7 points, right? So I will just mention them. The very first point is, it says training in the preliminaries. That would be the practices that supports the bodhicitta preliminary. Of course, we will go into that. And the second point then, of course, is the bodhicitta itself. Here it's both relative and ultimate bodhicitta, but mainly the relative bodhicitta. Second point is training in the relative bodhicitta, or generating of the mind, we call it. In Tibetan we call sem-che. Sem-che, that means generating the mind, that would be bodhicitta. So in short, bodhicitta. Second. And the third, here is the point is called turning all the challenges, adversaries, into the path. All the challenges and difficulties that one may come across while practicing the Dharma, then you find a way to, turn them into the path itself. So that is the third one. The fourth one is, fourth point is a lifetime of practice in a nutshell. Actually, anyway, we'll come to that point. And then fifth one, right? The fifth one is the point of maturation of mind, meaning point of maturation of bodhicitta. It actually means the time when the bodhicitta will mature in me. So that is what it meant, the point of maturation of bodhicitta. And then sixth one is the samaya regarding the bodhicitta, the commitments to the bodhicitta. Okay, yes, and the seventh one are the, disciplines regarding the bodhicitta. So these are the 7 points. All right. Now the very first one, which is the preliminary, it says, train in the preliminaries. Many great masters say that preliminary is more important than the actual practice itself. So therefore, we really need to focus on this preliminary. Here, in Tibetan, we call ngondo, which is preliminary, or we can understand it as a foundation, actually. Foundation upon which we will grow the bodhicitta, okay? So we need this. So 2 things are here. I mean, there are 2 things that becomes the foundation. First, actually, are the, the 4 thoughts. In the Ngondo practice, remember we have this called the the common ngondo, the common preliminary, and the uncommon preliminary. Here actually it is the common preliminary. That is the ngondo here. We will discuss a little bit more on that. But before we go into this is something that you have learned, you have heard many times, but we will discuss about that. Also, the foundation for bodhicitta also means, the one of the main foundation for bodhicitta actually is renunciation. We call ngenjung in Tibetan. And for that ngenjung to take, place in my heart, then the practice of this forethought that turns your mind away from samsara. It's same as these 4 common preliminaries. What is exactly ngenjung? Generally speaking, ngenjung is a state of a mind that really, longs for nirvana, and it really doesn't long samsara at all, because of the knowledge of the fault of samsara, let's say. The fault of samsara is suffering in general. So therefore that realization, that knowledge in them regarding the fault of samsara, shortcomings of samsara, meaning there is no place in this world where, people do not, or beings do not go through suffering. There is no mind, let's say, in the whole universe that do not go through pain. Pain, from this point of view, then suffering pretty much pervades our mind, almost all the time. So, and then of course nobody longs or desires suffering. It's quite understandable. Who would? Nobody would. The suffering, it doesn't matter what the suffering is, as long as it is a suffering, pain, then no one desires this. So when we say samsara, it actually means here suffering or pain. Like when we say we renounce samsara, it doesn't mean you renounce. It is not in the sense of abandoning houses and countries. That will not help us at all, because the pain is in your mind. It will be with you all the time. So here when we say samsara, it's actually our own experience of good, bad, and ugly. But from this point of view, then it refers to the suffering, that our mind go through. Anyway, so here and then when we understand that it is not only I who have this suffering, rather every being equally go through this kind of suffering. So when we understand that how suffering pervades the mind of sentient beings equally, and how this suffering really brings so much pain to being, that knowledge, that realization is what becomes the ground for bodhicitta, for example, right? Because that is what helps you to understand where this suffering is coming from. What is the origin of truth of suffering, right? Suffering from the Four Noble Truth is the truth of the suffering. And first, like Buddha says, first you need to know there is suffering. Second, you need to know what is that suffering. And once when we sort of understand that, then we also will realize where this suffering is coming from. Then we go to the source of the suffering. That's called truth of origination, from the Four Noble Truth, truth of origination. Suffering comes from karma. Karma comes from our emotions. Our emotions come from our ego clinging. And our ego clinging is due to misconception, due to ignorance. So this is why it will go back to the ignorance. Ignorance, which is the first, link from the 12 links of dependent origination, so to speak. So it's very deep, meaning like we understand suffering, we understand the cause of suffering, and we understand how to stop it. How do I stop the suffering? I cannot stop suffering by stopping suffering. I stop the suffering by stopping the source of suffering. Find the source, destroy the source of suffering. So in this way, then I understand that I need to go to the source. So from this point of view, then if I want to remove my own, let's say, suffering and suffering of others, the way to do that is really finding that wisdom. That wisdom, the vipassana, we can call it the vipassana wisdom, the pragyana paramita, right? The pragyana, the transcendental wisdom. So with that, then we can uproot the suffering. So yes, so in this way, like Shantideva also says in his book, in Bodhicharyavatara, that in some ways, suffering is very helpful, because suffering helps one to experience compassion, kindness. Suffering helps one to reduce one's own ego, and these are actually very true. In our lives, we understand that. Here, this is from the point of view when we understand suffering, our suffering, suffering of others, and then we, of course, we experience this mind that I need to do something about this suffering. I want to find a way to overcome this suffering for me and for others. So that mind, thinking that, thinking of removing the suffering, in others, in oneself, is actually compassion or bodhicitta. So you see how this suffering helps one to, build this foundation, for the bodhicitta actually. But that all happened because of the renunciation, ngenjung. So here that ngenjung, that renunciation is renouncing or the mind of, overcoming of suffering. Like I want to overcome my suffering. I want to overcome the suffering. I want to help others to overcome their suffering. That mind is called renunciation, actually. At the same time, then this mind called renunciation, ngenjung, also has this ability, of letting go of attachment to mundane things. So it is actually a very powerful mind. All right, so that now you see that here when we say first train in the preliminaries, that preliminary is actually the first one is, the renunciate mind, okay? And this renunciate mind is born from this four thought help us to do that. So now let's see what four thoughts are quite easy, because many of you have been practicing on those, so I think you all know this. But since we are going through this book, it's also good to go through that. The very first thought is, of course, thought of precious, human life. Why it is precious? From my understanding, there are many reasons. One of the reasons is that, for example, animal beings, they do not really have the capacity, unfortunately, to understand the teachings, and therefore they don't have the capacity to know what is liberation or what is, samsara, for example. Therefore, they cannot develop the mind of, of enlightenment, that the wish, the desire, and ability to, achieve the liberation and Buddhahood. But as a human being, in comparison, then fortunately, our mind is more intelligent, we can say. And for instance, one very simple example is we know, I would like to believe we know, even though it doesn't sound exactly right, but anyways, we know right from wrong, so to speak. We know what is right and what is wrong. I'm saying that, but sometimes it doesn't feel that actually is true, that human beings know what is right or what is wrong. But I'm just saying that, hopefully it is true what I'm saying. Meaning, we know what can bring us happiness, and we know what can help us to overcome suffering. This is the meaning of that. In Tibetan, we call Langwa and Torwa. Langwa actually, in this meaning, engaging in virtuous actions that brings us happiness, because we understand that it is through virtuous actions that happiness is born. That's called Langwa. Torwa meaning, avoiding negative actions. Why? Because we understand that from the karma point of view, we understand that all of the suffering and pain that we go through is born from, accumulation of negative karma. So of course we don't want negative karma. We want to avoid, we want to stop, engaging negative karma. This mind, that right from wrong, from that point of view, what is the right cause for happiness, and what is the wrong cause for happiness, so to speak. So this mind is Lang Tor in Tibetan is we have that ability. I hope we do, because it doesn't seem that way. Many a times it doesn't seem this way, to be very honest. But somehow, Buddha said that, many other great beings say that. So hopefully there is, some hope in there. So anyway, so here when we say precious human life, then like Karmapa and many others says, Karmapa says that, the ground for enlightenment is, among the 6 cyclic existence, the best ground for reaching of enlightenment is human existence, right? Human mind and human body. It's both human body and human mind. Especially in the Tantrayana, from what I have heard, is even more, let's say, even more special. So this is why we call precious human life. And we need precious because if we use this, our human existence, in the right way, in the right manner, then we can really achieve something that is beyond our imagination. Of course, Buddhahood is 100% possibility, enlightenment is, liberation is possibility, everything is possibility, given that we use our existence, meaning our life, in the right direction. And if we don't, then then of course there will be no fruit. So we are wasting this very precious, let's say, precious condition, precious foundation. Shantideva, again, if I remember correctly, there is a very, good example. He says our human, let's say, life is like this very precious, container, a very precious container, most precious container. And now, this person who finds this precious container doesn't know the value of it. So they use it for many, they use it for all the, for dirty things, to put dirty things, I mean, They can use it for the cow dungs and, cow, all this stuff, and just throw it there in this kind of things. I like that example. It's very true, They just don't know that how precious it is. And it's like us, our human existence. It's very rare to achieve, And of course, then the second line where it talks about impermanence, we know that, and it's also very easy to lose, right? Human life is easy to gain, but not very hard to gain, but very easy to lose. We can lose it just like that, so to speak. So anyway, this precious human life, first we need to understand that it is very precious. One reason, of course, is because of the Dharma, makes it even more special. And then at the same time, we can use both our body and mind to benefit others as well as oneself. So this is why it is so very special and foundation. So then the second one, at the same time, we need to understand that we may have this very precious human life, but this is impermanent, right? The second one is impermanent. Here, the impermanent is, not in the sense like that something, impermanence, not in the sense that something is born and then it kind of stays there for a very long time, and then sometime down the line goes away, not from this point of view. Here, momentary, we call it, we call the subtle impermanence. So here, the meditation on this one is subtle impermanence. Subtle impermanence meaning every second, every moment, any existence, whether it is my mind, whether it is my body, universe, they are changing every second, every moment, correct? There is no moment or a second where they are not changing or where they are standing still. There is no such thing as standing still at all. So, therefore, the change, is inevitable in the sense like there is actually no moment in life where our body, mind, universe are not changing. They're changing constantly. It's constantly changing. We can see, if we observe around us and within ourselves, we can see that happening, especially with our mind. We understand our feelings and emotions, how they fluctuate. They fluctuate all the time. Our mind, our thoughts, emotion, they all the time sort of, fluctuate and fluctuate. There is no time when they are actually standing still or remaining still. So that's what, but this is more from the point of view of actually death. This is because to encourage us to practice Dharma while we still can. So this is why in all the Dharma teaching, then when we talk of impermanence, then we talk about death, like saying that death can occur any time. And this is true, death 100% can come any time, without warning, so to speak, right? Like it says, death is certain, but the time of the death is uncertain. This is, same with everything. So you never know. People die young, people die old, people die, there is no time frame or lifespan saying that people will live up to this and then they will die at this. So we die in a different, different age, so to speak. Some die in the womb, some die right after birth, so we know these things. So it's about impermanence. Again, the teaching on impermanent, in my opinion, and meditation, I should say, is something we really, really want to pay attention to. It really will help, actually. When you look around you, when you look in yourself, how you changed, how things change, like our world is changing every moment, correct? It's like stock market. I don't really know what it is, but it seems like that is a very good example from what I knew, because I just saw these numbers going up and down, these fluctuates. It's like this. If not just that, like if we watch world news, then you understand what is changing or how things are changing. All these things called, climate change, global warming, and all these other disasters. We think it's happening in our time. It's not true. It's been happening all the time, actually. Now we have news media, so we know more. Before there was no news media, like Tibetan people thought that was the world, because they never went out of Tibet. Like we have this example called the frog in the well, He thought that was ocean. There is a folk story like this. But nowadays we have this media that tells us what's happening around the world. But this has been happening because this is very much the nature of, universe. The nature of universe is change. It changes and it changes and changes and changes. There is no time when it will not change. Change is not necessarily good or bad. It's just change. It's just reality. It's our perception to that, You feel good, you feel bad. That's your perception. But the reality is change is neither good nor bad. It's just a reality. Like suffering, it's just a reality. It's neither good nor bad from actual point of view. Or joy, it's just a perception. I'm happy, I'm sad. But happiness is, impermanent. Sadness is impermanent. Everything's impermanent. The reality of that. What is the reality of this impermanent? If you really think about that, it's actually really an illusion, correct? We have to say the word is impermanent. But what is impermanent? If you really think from your meditation point of view, you will not find something called impermanent at all. It's very interesting. This is why Buddha actually many a time he says that, meditation on impermanence is very, very helpful, and it's true. The reason I'm saying is that because I think that the reason we have attachment is because we don't know, or we lack the the knowledge regarding the impermanent. We take everything for granted. We think everything's real, true. We think everything's going to stay. And impermanence is opposite of that. This is why we have so much clinging and attachment. Once when we understand that whether it is our life, yourself, your friends, your enemy, universe, once when we understand how impermanent they are, how uncertain actually. It's uncertain is better word than impermanent, I guess. Uncertain really says something. Really uncertain. There is no certainty whatsoever at all. Cannot be. In its nature, there is no certainty at all. When we realize, then we understand that what is the point of holding on to something that is uncertain. It's actually pointless. It doesn't mean you cannot enjoy it. So the whole point is just enjoy it, without really holding on to that. We don't do this. We try to hold it. We try to hold something that we cannot hold. And we kind of, hang on to it. These are the mistakes we are actually making in our lives because we think, now everything's all set. It's not really all set, actually, so to speak. It's like, in the sense, like, life moves on. I like that line very much. It's very true. I think we say it, but we actually don't know what that means. We say it like, life moves on. If you really knew what that meant, then, you will not actually feel, that pain actually in you. Life moves on, it is very true. Who can stop life? No one can stop life, correct? Or anything for that matter. Who can stop the change in this world? We are trying to do something, all these people, we are trying to, do something to change this global warming and all these other things. Of course, it's good motivation, I guess, all this is good. But the thing is we cannot control. No one can control the universe. Come on. It's impossible to control who is going to control the time? There is no Superman as such. Come on, guys. It's very just an illusion for a kid. Oh, a Superman is coming, or super God is coming. And these are all just very kid stuff, actually. But the thing, is that we still can really enjoy it. Once when you understand this reality, we don't have to, I think one reason we try to confront the truth. You can't confront the truth. You can't fight the truth. Like someone is fighting the death. That's actually pointless. Sooner or later you are going to die. No matter what, no? So anyway, here when we say impermanence and all these things, I went a little bit too far, but it's about our lives, but it's about universe. Really, it's not within our control. Something that's not within our control, then we should not try to control it. Rather, we should try to learn to flow with it, no? It's a flow, actually. You need, like river, if you got carried away by river, you need to learn to flow with it. Anyways, it's just something came to my mind. But here, this impermanent, so precious human life is very precious, but at the same time, it is something that we can lose anytime. This is the meaning of this. So here, from Dharma point of view, I think it gives them this kick, saying that, I don't know if I leave to practice tomorrow. So I must do it rather now and start in that very spot. And, do not waste any time. This is really the actual instruction, so to say. And then the third thought is actually regarding, it says shortcoming of samsara. These two are actually about truth of suffering and truth of origination. Here, let's say shortcoming of samsara, like I said before. Sometimes it reverses. Sometimes people say first is karma, then shortcoming of samsara. I like to think shortcoming of samsara first, because it's from meaning, okay, so I have a human life, I'm born here, and then all this experience that I go through, that is what it meant actually. Shortcoming of that. So first, all of my experience from the Dharma point of view, we call them suffering actually, dukkha, or the truth of suffering. In all the 6 cyclic existences, like I said in the beginning of my talk, there are no mind that do not experience suffering. We understand there are 3 kinds of suffering. We don't go through that, but it's just generally meaning that the ordinary mind of ordinary beings, sentient beings, by nature, they are characteristics of emotions, correct? They are characteristics of attachment and all these emotions and ignorance. So therefore, these emotions, they by nature are suffering, like anger, jealousy, pride, all these ignorance. Of course, by nature, they are suffering. They bring suffering, but they are suffering, so to speak. So there are no sentient beings who are without these emotions, obscurations, or ignorance. First of all, there are no sentient beings who are without ignorance, right, at all. So this goes to tell us that there are no sentient beings who are without suffering. So that is of course, there are, if you want to know more in detail, then you can read about the different suffering of the different beings. We don't need to go through this. There are some numbers we count, but we are not going through that. So then the shortcoming of samsara, and then where does this suffering come from? It's concerned, then it comes from the truth of origination, which I already spoke before a little bit. Truth of origination is actually, it talks about karma, right? Like karma. So then the teaching on karma is very, again, very vast, as we all know, very vast, but something we really also want to know. One thing we want to know is teaching of karma is not limited to happiness and sadness. It's actually about, karma here, karma, because legend is not only about these two things, but it's about actually it's about universe, I would like to think. There is no existence in this universe that is without cause, correct? Whether it is my body, whether it is the universe that we live in, whatever it may be, from the mountain to the ocean to the earth to the space, they all have cause and they all have conditions. But the interesting part of that is actually connected to our human, or not human, to our karma of the human beings. This is very interesting, actually. But also, like, for example, this cup, it's cup, I guess I can call it cup, it's also, has its own cause. I mean, there are many people contributed to make this one cup, and then all the other materials, you need this. So it's not without a cause. I guess first there was a guy who thought, okay, I'm going to make a cup. So it came born from that idea. And then he needed all the materials. To have that material, then he needed many individuals, like in a corporate house. And then they just needed many other things to make this one. It looks like, very easy, but in reality, it have taken so much time and energy and thought, correct? All that actually, I'm just giving you an example of that. When we say, karma, it's not just limited to that. But really the interesting part, like I said, is that how they are connected to the karma of living beings. Like in the human world is connected to the human karma. Let's say animal beings, the animal realm is connected to whatever realm it may be. There is also realm, right? Us. It's also connected to their own karma, so to say. But here, I guess in this case, then it is more about karma that we know, meaning karma in the sense of, what causes happiness and what causes, the pain from that. But this is very limited, part of the karma. It's about that. Yes, from the foreknow, because we talked about suffering. So where does suffering come from? Then suffering comes from karma. So in this case, then it is, connected with this, karma of suffering, karma of joy, all that. Yes, so anyway, the teachings on karma is very vast. And then we need to study the meaning of dependent arising, not just the 12 links of dependent origination. This is connected with the 12 links of dependent origination, correct? Again, but at the same time, the meaning of dependent arising, is also very deep. So we don't have time to go into this in deep, but really, just in Tibetan called Tendel, there are two kinds. One dependent, nature is dependent nature of cause and effect. So those are the, 12 links of dependent origination. And then the other dependent arising is the dependent arising or dependency. Dependency, meaning they exist. Okay. For example, tall and short. If there's someone who is short And then there will be, something called toll. Everything, left, right, existence, when you think of the existence, they are all in reference with something else. On their own, they don't exist, but in reference with something else. So it's very much like in reference with something else. What that tells us is they don't have their own independent existence. Like toll is not something that exists on its own. Short doesn't exist on its own. In reference with, in comparison with something else, short, all these things. So this actually helps us to understand the the reality of the phenomena, like the reality of the phenomena. It means it's just a label from the term we have in Dharma is called, it's just a name. Only a name, we call Ming Chang Tsam. Only a name, not something that exists on its own independently at all. So anyway, so there are these other things from the karma point of view. So these 4 thoughts that we have in the Ngondo practice, I think, in our everyday life, it's very actually powerful meditation. Like thinking about karma also will help us in a great way, really, and of course impermanence will also, like I said, 100% will help us in a great way to understand the reality of the life. It's very important that we knew the reality of the life, okay? So these are truth. All of these are actually true. Karma is true, impermanence is true, all of that is true. Like when I observe my own life, all these things is about me. Like I said yesterday somewhere, it's all about us actually. Sometimes we think like, it's not about us, meaning Dharma. We think it's not about us. But it's not true. It's actually about us, about our existence. This is something we need, meaning like sometimes people think, it's not relevant. Like it's not relevant to me, to my job, But maybe it's not true. It is very much relevant to your job, you got fired. Why? There is a relevance to that. It's called impermanence. And then you get hired. You got fired, it's all impermanence. There is a relevance. You go through that, and you go through challenges. You go through all these moments of, we call sadness, happiness, all these fluctuations. And it's described in the teaching, uncertain, that how life, everything in life is uncertain. At the same time, there's a cause for that. You will not, I'm giving examples, so it's not just saying you got fired because there's a reason. So I'm just saying that, okay? I don't know what the reason is, but the reason maybe is that, you got fired because you got fired. Or you got hired because you got hired, probably, Anyways, just saying that. You understand my point. My point is there is a cause. You may not agree with the cause, but it doesn't matter. You may not agree that, so you are not, let's say, qualified, people say, but you think I'm more than qualified. Probably you are true. But nonetheless, you got fired, so what you going to do? Nothing you can do about it. Why? So we as a Buddhist have this thing, whether we like it or not, we have, a word called karma. Many a time we don't like it. Many a time we like it. Unexpectedly, many things happen. Oh, karma, and you're happy. You get fired. I don't like it. I don't believe in karma. We are very childish-like, It's like, I don't want this karma. Right? I don't accept this karma. It doesn't matter. Accept, not accept. You got fired, that's it. Something like this. So this is what the reality is. Really, this is, you see, I mean, all these teachings are very much relevant in our lives. And it's not just about the job, it's about everything in our lives. Friends come, go, families, all these, things we have issues and with family, not issues with family. It's a big drama, out there. It's, of course, you have a life is big drama. So all the drama that we go through in our life is very strange. And when you die, it's like, oh, what really happened, Probably like, wow, that's interesting. I don't think we think like this, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to create some happy moments. Probably we don't, may not have that kind of happy moment. You never know, actually, you never know. So that's life. It's one big drama without any reason. There is a reason, but not really like reason. There's a reason, yes. A reason that's called karma, I guess, cause and effect and all this. Right now we are creating that in this very moment. So anyway, this is more, we have to think a little bit more in depth because here this preliminary, the foundation practice is foundation to experience bodhicitta. So therefore we have to go a little bit more in depth, the reality. When we understand the reality of the mind, of the suffering, of samsara, it moves our heart. This is what it meant. It really moves you from the within, So that which moves your mind, is called compassion. And from that compassion, then a mind is generated, think, I need to do something about it, So that I need to do something about it. For example, I need to achieve enlightenment in order to benefit sentient beings. Or I need to bring sentient beings to liberation. Why? Because you got moved because of this knowledge that you gained by doing this meditation. And you understood the truth. And you want, help others. So that is how then it becomes the ground for the let's say, bodhicitta. In general, then, yes, this is the foundation, but foundation can be many things. It doesn't have to be only this preliminary thought. It could be many other things as well. But here they mention these preliminaries as in the 4 thoughts that turns your mind away from samsara. We call lodok, namshi in Tibetan, but anyhow. So that's the preliminary part. And then we come to the second point actually. Second point is actual bodhicitta. Again here, like I said early on, in some texts, the relative bodhicitta is presented first, and in some, the ultimate bodhicitta is presented first. Here, the ultimate bodhicitta is presented first, and the relative bodhicitta is presented, second. Just again, giving some information here. So before we go through the root text, I just want to say something, as a base for this. I also, like this idea in the sense like it's very much possible that, what it meant in my understanding, is that through wisdom, the bodhicitta is experienced, okay? So this would be ultimate and relative bodhicitta. Sometimes, first thing that you gain is you gain insight. Insight into the reality, okay? Into the reality, actually. You gain this insight. When you gain this insight, the wisdom, they share up, and that wisdom induces the bodhicitta automatically, so to speak. So probably those are individuals with very advanced mind, let's say, like Saraha, Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, all these great masters. First thing they saw was view. Let's put it this way, the view. View here is the absolute truth, correct? The truth. And they understood this, of course, through analyzing. It takes time. Through this meditation, then they experience the truth. They experience the wisdom. And then, of course, at the same time, then they experienced what we call as the bodhicitta method. In Tibetan, many of we call top, tang, sherab. One is top, one is sherab. Here, top meaning method, sherab meaning wisdom. Here is reversed. First is sherab, then it's top, actually. But generally, we always say top, sherab, just so that you know again. So those who are very advanced in their mind, because, I guess in many, many lifetimes, they have been practicing Dharma for like many, many lifetimes, and then of course, they are very advanced. So therefore, through their insight into the truth, into the reality, they experience the reality of bodhicitta, is what it meant here, okay? And then for someone who is not that advanced, then the first thing they experience is the method. Here, let's say the method meaning bodhicitta. Of course, we are going to go more in detail. And through this, they experience the wisdom. It is very much similar to this meditation of the vipassana and shamatha. Again, given those who are very advanced, first thing they gain is insight. That means vipassana, correct? Vipassana, okay? Inside vipassana. Through vipassana, then they experience the one-pointed concentration, because they are so advanced and one-pointed concentration. And those who are not that advanced, first they focus on the one-pointed concentration, the shamatha meditation. Through the shamatha meditation, then they experience the vipassana. So it depends on how advanced one's mind on the path to enlightenment is and how not advanced it is, then accordingly, we'll have this kind of, let's say, experience. So one never know. You really never know how, where, when this kind of realization will come about. Again, just giving you an example. All right, so now we'll go through the verses. Okay. Oops. In Tibetan, it says "Chönam milam taur sam." I'm telling these translators to translate that. I guess they. So it's very powerful, actually. Regard all dharmas as dreams. Chönam milam taur sam. Okay, so there are two things that we have to keep in mind. This is from the point of view of view. View meaning in Dharma, we talk about meditation phase and post-meditation phase. This is from the point of view of meditation phase. What that meant is, let's say, this advanced meditator is in a state of meditation. And in that state of meditation, they are in this state of a wisdom of emptiness, okay? Wisdom empty. To this wisdom of emptiness, how things appear, how they experience, this is what is defined here. So when it says all phenomenon are dreamlike, so the very first line. Here, again, it means we are talking about emptiness. So let's say this is the emptiness of, object, meaning phenomena, the object. First, the way, okay, here, the way one enters meditation is through, analytical meditation. One first analyzes the object. By analyzing the object, then one gains this very conclusive realization of the emptiness nature of the object, okay? So once when they gain this realization of the emptiness nature of the object, then they abide. Then they try to remain in that state. That is called analyzing and abiding. You analyze and you gain this very conclusive and absolute realization of the emptiness nature of the object, and that's where you just abide and stay in calm. This is how it happens. So here, just it's actually for us to have this understanding, elaborate a little bit. It's also an advice to us. You analyze the object, and through analyzing you gain this wisdom of the emptiness, and you hold this view. That's what it meant, you hold this view. So to that wisdom, then yes, all the phenomenon are dreamlike, meaning it's an illusion that has no nature of its own nature, inherent nature at all, so to speak. So that yes, and now the second line actually, then we can do it together. It's better if I say the second line. In Tibetan, it actually says, Mache Rikpi Shilache. And in English, it says, examine the nature of unborn awareness. Okay. Two things, right? First, what is the object of my, examination? What is it that I'm exactly analyzing, right? So the answer is, you are analyzing your own nature of the mind. And what is that nature of the mind? Then it says unborn awareness. Unborn awareness. Karmapa Rangjung Dorje, also says this, right? Very beautiful teaching, actually. He elaborates this meaning. According to him, he says that by observing the mind that cannot be observed, that makes him. Yes, he says by observing the object, the mind that cannot be observed over and over again, you will realize the unborn nature of the mind. So here it's actually very similar to what he's saying here. So it's interesting in the sense like, again, the mind that is being observed, is the true nature of the mind. And the mind that is observing to it is also the true nature of the mind, correct? So it's like mind looking at mind itself. Here, there is no like two mind. In meditation, there can be no two mind. So early on, when I said the first line where it says, all phenomena are dreamlike. That is the object. So here, like third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje said, actually, the observer itself is the wisdom, the unborn awareness. And this unborn awareness is observing itself, actually, so to speak. Or in other words, it means it is experiencing itself. Correct? It is experiencing itself. So, in this way, then, this is, of course, the Mahamudra point, the Dzogchen point of view. In the those Mahasiddhas and advanced meditators, when they are in meditation, so what is going on in their mind? Of course, they have just one mind. They don't have two minds. We all know this. So when they are in this mind, it's actually the same with us. Let's stick to the Mahasiddhas. They have an experience of absolute nature of the mind. Let's say an experience. If that is an experience, there should be, something that experiences it, so to speak. Correct? So here, then, just so that ordinary people can understand, they kind of separate this into two. In reality, there is no two, but here's just so that we know, what is really happening. Then they say, okay, that is the object. That experience is the object, and the one that experiences all the joy, all the wisdom, all the clarity is the unborn nature of the mind. But it is very much the characteristic, the quality of the unborn nature mind of itself, so to speak. So this is, again, from the emptiness point of view, it's same as that. This is really from the definition of emptiness, but slightly spoken from the point of view of Mahamudra. So that's why unborn awareness. I think the emphasis is more on the luminous nature of the mind and not so much on the emptiness nature of the mind. Whereas actually the luminous nature of the mind and the emptiness nature of the mind are inseparable. They cannot be. The luminous itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is luminous. It cannot be separated, actually, even though we have to say this. So here again, emptiness is not an emptiness in terms of empty thing, but it's from the point of view of, free from clinging, free from grasping. Imagine when your mind is no longer grasping, then we are really in a state of an emptiness, so to speak. So otherwise, it's not like, of course, we all know this, that it's not like empty here, okay? Not like empty walls or ways, not like that. Again, yes, so so here it's interesting in the sense like it says observe or analyze according to Tibetan, You enter the unborn nature of mind through analyzing. Meaning first step is you analyze, and then you come to this point where you gain very comprehensive realization of the unborn awareness nature of the mind, you abide. Okay? So it seems like this. The other thing actually is probably, the beginners may need to focus more on the analytical part of that. But those who are advanced, I don't think there is such thing as observing or analyzing. Actually, this is what I wanted to point out. It's not like, for example, Saraha, Nagarjuna, or Mitipa. It's not like every time they sit in meditation, they have to do some kind of, analytical meditation. They don't. They can very much instantly enter into the meditation, is what I'm trying to say. All these great Mahasiddhas, from Saraha to Nagarjuna, to Maitreya, to Gambupa, they all are same actually. And of course, all the Karmapas are same. I guess it's not like they have to enter or not enter. No, in reality, that's the way their mind is. So they are kind of always in a meditative state from that point of view. Am I clear what I'm saying? Once when you get so trained in this meditation, then everything becomes, natural. One spontaneously, effortlessly is able to abide in meditation. This is what I'm trying to explain. So with this advanced meditators, they just very naturally, spontaneously, and instantly are in that state. Okay? Yes, but for the beginner, then yes, there are these steps like he's actually explaining to us. Now, the Khenpo Tsering Samdrub. All right. The third, line. Okay. Self-liberate even the antidote. Okay, that English part, anyways. Khenpo Tsering Samdrub. Meaning, it seemed like, generally speaking, then we have obscuration and we have antidote, right? It's like sickness and medicine. You have sickness, you have medicine, you apply medicine. This example here is saying that in the end, both the obscuration and antidote, they both, disappear. They both, become emptiness. One other example I like is example of, matchstick. The matchstick, when you burn it, and then the stick burns. Of course, there's a fire, there's a stick. In the end, both the fire and the stick, both, get exhausted, correct? Both get exhausted. What is burning what? Fire is burning the stick. So in our mind, the fire should stay, but it doesn't. Also exhausted. In the same way, here we have wisdom against emotion. So we're using wisdom against emotion. Okay? In the end, then in our mind, we think, okay, so the wisdom wins, emotion loses, therefore wisdom is the victor, and it stays. That is not actually it. So this example, because in reality, there never was an obscuration to begin with. And therefore, there never was an antidote to begin with. So then there's no question of them remaining, actually. How can there be in emptiness? something called obscuration, something called antidote. Again, this is from the absolute point of view. It's very, it's interesting also in the sense like when there's nothing to be, given up, then there is nothing that gives it up, so to speak. So therefore, this is what it meant here. The third line, again what it also meant is the way how we enter meditation. First, it seems like, you are analyzing something. First, it seems there's an object of analyzation. It seems like there is something that's analyzing it. But eventually, then you want to go beyond both, actually. You go beyond analyzing and the object of, analyzation. So this is actually what it meant by, in the end, that how you go beyond this. It's about how we develop attachment. First, the attachment is to the emotion. Later on, then the attachment is to the antidote, And now here, when this both, the obscuration and the wisdom, in the end, when one go beyond that, then in a very true sense, in a very true way, one really overcomes the whole, craving and attachment and grasping. Mainly, this is what it meant actually here, like during the meditation phase, these very advanced meditators, they are beyond grasping of, antidote or obscuration. And they are beyond any conceptual thoughts. This is what it meant by being in a state of an emptiness, correct? Emptiness of antidote, emptiness of obscuration, actually, so to say. So, right, so we'll move on. Verse number 4. That's very huge. I mean, all of them are very huge, but rest in the nature of alaya, the essence. First thing here is those of you who are studying, these different schools in Buddhism. This alaya, kunje, is not the alaya that is presented in the Chitramatra school. Okay, this alaya doesn't refer to that. So we have to first take out that, concept, or this alaya is the alaya which is the base for karma, not that alaya. So now here, what is this alaya? Actually, Karmapa Rangjung Dorje, again in his teaching, Mahamudra, he mentions this. He says, he defines this alaya as the, the most secret nature of the mind, actually. Yes, the most secret, nature of the mind. Meaning here, because the unborn awareness is hidden under all these obscurations, so therefore they become secret. Secret to individuals who are experiencing these obscurations. It remains hidden to us, right? This is why secret. For example, my own Dharmakaya is hidden from me. Whereas my Dharmakaya, my own unborn awareness is within me. The other word is Dharma. The other word is Buddha nature mind, Tathagata Garbha, right? Tathagata Garbha. Of course, I have Tathagata Garbha. So here when it says alaya consciousness, alaya, it actually refers to this innately abiding Tathagata Garbha. That innately abiding Tathagata Garbha, that is the base of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. That is the base of that, correct? So that mind, that unborn, awareness, unborn, wisdom, saying that in this process, when we, enter the meditation, so stepwise, the way we enter that is through analytical meditation. And through analytical meditation, we go these phases where first the concept of, object is overcome, just saying for the sake of it. And then the concept of the, subject is overcome. Then the concept of both subject and object is overcome. Now, then where are you? Now you are truly resting in the alaya state of the mind. So this alaya state of the mind is none other than Dharmakaya. So that actually is quite interesting, no? I mean, quite interesting, but very profound order. But all this happens very quick, okay? Very quick. I guess in a matter of second, those who are very advanced. But this order is there, meaning it can be very much simultaneous. Here, so that we know, we are saying that, okay, when we, through the analytical meditation, the notion of the object is the one that is, dispersed first. And then right after that, the concept of the subject is dispersed. And in the second, then this concept of subject and object is dispersed. Now you are in a non-dual state of the mind, correct? Then there is non-dual. These are the dual. So now you are in a very non-dual, unborn awareness nature of the mind. And that non-dual awareness is called alaya here in this case. I think this, language, we can say the term is very much Dzogchen and also Mahamudra, but in Dzogchen it comes very often, I guess. Anyway, so this is what it meant. So when we read this is what we try to do. Let's say it is very much like directly entering into the Mahamudra state, right? This is the Mahamudra. In the end, that is the how. So that's also Mahamudra state of the mind. Right. I think that's more than enough. Too much words. When we say too many words, then it kind of destroys it. So now that was the meditation phase. Now the post-meditation phase. Again, I to remind you, it's called view, tawa. Okay, tawa. And then how do one conduct oneself during the post-meditation? As a bodhisattva, how do you conduct? How do you carry on your practice, your view during the post-meditation? So it's for all of you guys. I mean, it's for all of us. We always ask this question, all the time. Actually, it's very simple. You need to bring it with you, no, everywhere. Why you leave it there, actually? Why you leave it on your cushion? Actually, you're making a mistake. People are, oh, then I go to office. What do I do? It's actually a very strange question to ask that. Like, I can scold you, actually, saying, what do you mean by that? What do you do that? Simple answer, actually. Then I can, why you left it there? Why you left it on the cushion in the monastery? Then it's no benefit at all. You sit down, you meditate, and as soon as you walk out, you leave everything on that cushion in that monastery. It's a very strange kind of practice. That is preliminary, in my understanding. You sit down, we meditate, it's preliminary. The actual practice begins when you step out. Now we are supposed to carry that with us, no? This view, this understanding, this experience is what you are to use. What else are you going to use? It's not like there's a different thing for you to do. You have to do the same thing, no? Actually, if I understand, that is what really I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do what I am learning. What I'm being taught is what I'm to do. Now I ask my teacher, okay, when I go out, what I'm supposed to do? He can very much kill me, like, what do you mean by, like, don't come tomorrow, so to speak. So here is what it meant by, like, let's say what he says, but the view-wise. Generally, generally it is very true that our practice influences our mind, is what I'm trying to say. It's very important that our minds are influenced by our Dharma practice. Influenced meaning matured. I'm saying use influenced but matured. The more and more we learn, reflect, study, think, then we experience a change, and those changes are influenced by this wisdom that you have been acquiring over time. And then your views slightly become different. The way your outlook to life, to other people becomes slightly different. That is the result. That is the maturation, actually. The more and more we practice, the more mature we become, the more mindful, everything becomes more, let's say, more matured. Because there's more growth in our wisdom. This is what we really want, actually. All right, let's see what does this say here. Yeah, I pretty much remember that. Tunsam Jumi Chiurcha. Yes, it's pretty much saying those things that I actually said there. Let's see the line here. Okay, again, this English it's fine. In post meditation, be a child of illusion. Okay, this it just means that it's important to keep this view that everything is an illusion, right? Simply speaking, and it is. Everything, our life, from the birth to sickness to death, to all the good things, to even the Dharma practice that we are doing, our teachers, whether they are Buddha or Bodhisattva or Mahasiddha, doesn't matter. They are all illusion. I am illusion, they are illusion, the whole universe is an illusion. And this is very true. So we need to hold that view, is what he's simply saying. Why? It's because if we truly are able to see it in this way, in the way that everything is dream-like, then it will reduce our attachment. It will reduce our grasping and craving, to zero. Therefore, we will not experience any attachment, craving. Rather, this view that we're experiencing, everything is an illusion. When we understand that how other people are confused to this illusion as reality, then we experience compassion, kindness, bodhicitta to them. So this is what it meant by, like, we need to, understand, we need to always sort of try to keep up this view that really everything, all phenomenon, is an illusion. It's not illusion-like, it is an illusion. Okay, it's dream-like, yes. It's dream-like, it's an illusion-like. So yes, that's the about the first body relative. I thought I'll do a little more, but anyway, I guess we'll do it tomorrow. That's the ultimate bodhicitta, correct? So the ultimate bodhicitta is about, the view, the ultimate view, meaning, the reality of phenomena from the absolute point of view. Okay, so I think we will now stop here for today. I can take some questions if you like. Okay.
Khenpo, thank you for your teachings. Maybe it will be a strange question, but I'm really thinking about it. Of course, we all have attachments, clingings, and etc. And there is a lot of it in our minds, in my mind, of course. And I'm wondering, what is the best way to transform all of this, to use this in the path to the enlightenment? What is the best way to do this?
All right. Actually, it will come up on, I think, the third point or third point probably, which says that, how we can transform all the challenges and adversaries on the path. Probably you will, get your answers there. So I cannot say in short now. There is actually that special part where, but in short, we really try to use Dharma wisdom to do that, right? In short, I do that. Everybody really, try to transform or try to, get help by remembering these Dharma teachings. So it is really the way to do that, either to transform or to work with them, is by using the, by using the Dharma wisdoms. So, but in general, then in this book, it actually talks in detail, how we can do that. So I think you will, you will get many answers to that. I think so. It's a part 3, I think. Yeah.
Khenpo, I just wondered why it's called unborn nature of the mind. I mean, unborn, it seems there is something also born, or is it in respect to it's not dependent, originated? Is that unborn?
Right.
That is meant?
Yes.
Okay.
It means, actually it's same as saying emptiness, meaning that the true nature of the mind is not caused by any condition. There is no cause, there is no condition that which brought it. So that's why it's called unborn.
Mm-hmm. And another question, So in the moment when it's realized that the phenomena are empty in nature, is it then, because it said there are different kinds of teachers and one of them is life itself. And in this moment when we kind of realize that everything is empty, every object is empty, is then this teacher getting more visible? Or, I mean, this teacher, which is life itself, it's to me it seems we have to ripen until we realize this kind of teacher. So in the situations and so on, not in the physical form, don't you understand what I mean?
I'm really not sure. You're saying teacher.
Yeah, I mean there are different, I have forgotten, 4 different teachers, and one of them is a physical one, and one, I think the 4th, is life itself as a teacher. Situation, each and every situation is a teacher, and I can only speak for myself. At the beginning of my journey on the spiritual path, it was very hidden, this kind of teacher.
Okay.
And now sometimes it seems that it's more visible, or more. I can notice more in the situation, the teacher aspect.
We need both. You know, we really need a person from whom we need to hear the teachings, right? So we really need a physical teacher. We all need it. And once when we have that, when we have heard a lot, when we have learned a lot, first the learning part is from the other people, from the physical teacher. Reflecting, meditating is something we do on our own. So with this reflecting and meditating, then I on my own manage, to develop that wisdom further and further and further. Then yes, there is this inner wisdom that we can very much take, a refuge in. And we usually, that is what we are taking refuge in. The inner wisdom, we can call it the innate wisdom that we are born with, so to speak. If you're saying that, this is true. But as far as the unborn nature of the mind is concerned, it doesn't really relate to that. It just simply means, that the ultimate nature of mind is emptiness, correct? But yes, it has that quality to it. Yeah.
Dear Khenpo, thank you for your deep teachings. I have a question about what you said, that everything is illusion, and how to keep this view in normal life when we have to work and build families or not build families. But if everything is illusion, for what we are living normal life?
For the illusion. For the illusion, no? No, it's a very true answer. No, it's a very good question, but really my answer is a very honest answer. We may be illusion, everything may be illusion, but we don't see it in that way, correct? Like, so to speak. So we live our life the way we understand it. Some understand it as illusion, some don't understand it as an illusion. That doesn't affect the fact. That doesn't affect the reality. It does not matter what I think about it. Because my thought will not change the reality, so to speak. But the way we live is very much dependent on how we perceive this life. So your question is very relevant because, most of us, we don't exactly see life as an illusion. Here and there we may see it. We see life as life. We see life as true. and that is, our perception as of now. So therefore, we have to live it the way how I see it, actually. I mean, we have to live it, that's how we live our life. But with time, when our perception change, our perception regarding life change, then our way of looking at life also will change. So it depends, really. It's not like the reality is not dependent on my decisions. That, okay, I make a decision, oh, it's an illusion. Just because I make a decision as an illusion, it will not become an illusion. So, so yes, yes. So therefore, we all live our lives, the way how we see, the way how we perceive it, but it can change with time, with age. It will change, actually. So therefore, it's very individual. I can't really say it. So what we are living is, we are living for, for that life that you are perceiving it, as it is, so to speak, no? Yeah.
Thank you. Continue the previous question.
Okay.
In Mahamudra, Karmapa says not fall into extremes view of internalism and nihilism. If I see word as an illusion, does it mean to fall to extremes view?
Yes. The answer is yes, but it's a very good question, actually. This last part in this, the line where it says that, both the object and subject are beyond existence, this is actually what Karmapa was talking about. In this sense, meaning, in the very beginning, we have this notion that, mind exists, and experience that mind experience exists. So this is from the existence point of view. Then somehow we think, okay, so the mind is emptiness, the object is emptiness. Then somehow we fall into, we can't call it exactly nihilism, but we fall into the extremes of emptiness. Not nihilism, but emptiness. But then this is an attachment. So I need to overcome attachment to the emptiness, to the wisdom. This is why in the very end it says that, that how this both notions, are illusion. That how these both notions, are inherent, empty of inherent existence. So this is how we go beyond, extremes. Yeah. So it is but it is true. Illusion. Yes, it is very good view to understand everything is an illusion, but it is an extreme, but not a bad one, actually. Extremes doesn't have to be very bad. It's an extreme in the sense like that's how I see things, right? So it's one fall into the extremes of illusion-like experience, we can say that. We as a common person, we are actually never we always fall in some kind of extremes, actually, all the time. Until the time we really, really directly see emptiness, that is when we will no longer fall into any extremes. But until that, let's say, for the sake of it, first Bodhisattva Bhumi. When emptiness is directly seen, this is the point where we go beyond any kind of extremes. But before that, on the path of accumulation, on path of application, we still fall into the extremes.
Khenpo, there is one more question from
Okay.
this lady. Phenomena do not have a separate existence. Is this analysis really happening, or do we think it's happening?
We think it's happening, and it's happening. No, it's true. Okay. This is a very good question, actually. When we are analyzing, yes, we are analyzing. Okay. But it's not about analyzing. Meditation is not, analyzation is not the meditation. Meditation is, when we analyze, then as a result of that analyze, you gain a wisdom. This wisdom is the true vipassana. So I analyze, okay, let's say not empty impermanence. I think why it is impermanent, how it is impermanent. Okay, my body is impermanent, so I want to know why my body is impermanent. And then I, let's say, analyze how and why my body is impermanent. Okay? Then as a result of that, you understand the reason why my body is impermanent, why I am permanent. That result, that wisdom, that knowledge is, the result of your meditation, right? You meditated why my body is impermanent. So yes, there is a process. Okay, the process is not the meditation, but the outcome of that process is the meditation, so to speak. So we are analyzing, yes. Okay, I think we can now say the dedication. But I guess you have Sojong, so. Sunam dia tam je zikpa nye to na nye pe dan na pam je ne che ga ya na che ba la ya tu pa si ben so le do wa do wa re sho ge wan di ye ki wo ke sunam ye she so so sunam ye she le chong wa tam ba kwe nye to pa re sho min je ro lom bo ko ye ta shi sho yen la tu jo song ge ta shi sho Tadala time tuk je ta shi shoy, gyalwe kusong tuk je ta shi shoy.